Many players spend hours trying to edit faster than they're able to, but this leads to sloppy technique and frustration. Fast editing is a result of high skill level, and there are many things that must be practiced and mastered in order to edit quickly and cleanly. So if you're struggling to edit at the speeds that you want, it simply means that you haven't perfected your technique. Now there are many good reasons for you to want to increase the speed and precision of your edits. For example, fast editing enables you to stay protected as you tunnel safely into the zone, get an unexpected angle to take a shot at an enemy, and enhances your ability to outplay opponents, particularly when box fighting. And if you want to learn new techniques to improve the speed of your editing, this video contains important tips to help you get to where you want to be, so make sure you watch this whole video. And before getting started, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications, so when I release a new video, you get notified. Now the first tip I have for you for having faster edits is to optimize your edit keybind. Because if you want to be able to edit fast and consistently, then you need edit on a good keybind. I recommend using something close to your movement keys that you can easily press using your index finger, since that's the finger you have the most control and highest speed with. So using F or E as your edit keybind is going to be ideal for most players. I've tried using left shift as my edit keybind, which I press with my pinky finger, but I found that this was inefficient, especially when you need to do multiple edits in a sequence. You just don't have as much control with your pinky finger as you do with your index finger. I know a lot of players use G as the edit keybind since it's the default key, but G is quite far away from your movement keys and can be difficult to press for some players, making it not as good a choice as E or F. And if you have your use or interact key on E or F and your edit key on something else, then I recommend swapping them around. Because editing is a more important function, you want it on your best keybind. Of course, there are other keys that you can use for editing. For example, Tfue uses V that he presses with his thumb, but in general, E or F pressed with your index finger is going to be the best choice for most players looking to increase editing speed. Double edit keybinds are worth mentioning here since they are arguably the fastest method for editing, but there are some considerable downsides to double editing keybinds, and they have a steep learning curve. The majority of players are going to use a single edit keybind, and for that I recommend using confirm edit on release. Because confirm edit on release reduces the number of steps required when editing, it enables you to edit faster. And the final thing in regards to your editing keybinds is that you'll definitely want to set up your scroll wheel as a reset edit function, since this is going to allow you to instantly reset your edits and is incredibly useful. To set up the scroll wheel reset, you just need to go to your keybinds and set the secondary button for your building edit and reset building choice to either mouse wheel up or mouse wheel down. Just make sure that you use the same direction for both choices. Now tip number 2 for increasing your editing speed is that you should loosen up before playing. Look, you wouldn't put on your shoes and start sprinting without first doing some stretches and warming up. Neither should you pick up your controller or mouse and try to play as fast as you can without stretching or warming up. Playing Fortnite is a surprisingly demanding task on your fingers, wrists, and hands, so you want to make sure that you're loose and feeling limber before you play. Listen. When you try to edit faster, your hands, wrists, and shoulders will tend to tense up, but tension slows you down. So you want to stay calm and relaxed as you play, and make sure that you're sitting in the correct, upright posture. Before you even sit down to play, you should take a moment to release any tension. You can do this by taking some slow and deep breaths to calm yourself down. Or you can try something that I like to do, which is to stand up and lightly bounce up and down and literally shake my shoulders, arms, and hands for about 20 to 30 seconds, like a boxer or a fighter would. I find this a useful technique for relieving any tension in those areas and getting myself to feel loose and channel some positive energy before I sit down to play. And as you're playing, you want to pay attention to your body and check for any signs of tension in your fingers, hands, wrists, shoulders, and back, because it all has an impact on your ability to play well and play fast. Reducing the tension in your body when playing can help you to achieve greater speed. Now that you have your keybinds optimized and you're feeling loose and ready to play, let's talk about the actual mechanical techniques involved in editing faster, which brings us to tip number 3, and that's that you should use small crosshair movements when editing. When I started out editing in Fortnite, I would do very large and exaggerated mouse movements. This made me feel like I was doing a lot more, but it's simply bad technique. You see, when you use large and exaggerated movements, you lose control of your camera and it becomes difficult to position yourself correctly and even know what you're doing. Instead, when you're selecting the tiles that you want to edit, you should use the smallest crosshair movement possible, because why would you use large movements when you can use small movements? Using small movements will improve the speed and efficiency of your edits, and when your movements are minimal, you have less chance of making a mistake. Also, if you're someone that plays using low sensitivity, then it's even more important that you use the smallest possible movements when editing, so you don't have to move your mouse as much. If you pay attention to the best editors, you'll notice that they use very efficient movements, which allows them to achieve greater speeds. Now tip number 4 for increasing your editing speed is to have the correct crosshair position for each time that you edit. Bad crosshair position is when your crosshair is on the other side of the tile that you intend to edit, and a bad crosshair position is usually a result of using large and exaggerated movements and losing control over your camera that we just discussed. On the other hand, good crosshair position is when your crosshair is already at the first tile that you want to edit. This will help to improve your speed as your crosshair is already where you want it to be. You can develop better crosshair position by practicing slow. After every edit, deliberately position your crosshair at the next edit. You'll notice that the best editors always have their crosshair in the optimal position, and you should aim to do the same. Now here's tip number 5, and it's to instantly select and confirm the edit. You see, when most players are editing, they edit in 3 distinct steps with a delay in between each step. So step 1, you start the edit, step 2, you select the tile, and step 3, you confirm the edit. But every delay between those steps, even if it's just a fraction of a second, slows down your editing. So if you want to edit fast, then you'll have to learn to combine the 3 steps. You want to select the tile you want to edit almost at the exact time that you start the edit, and you want to confirm the edit as soon as you've selected the tiles. When you can edit in this way, you'll notice that your editing in general and your one tile edits in particular will feel much faster and more fluid. Now tip number 6 is in regards to how you practice your editing. You want to practice slow. The idea of practicing slow is something that I learned about when I was playing guitar. The same principles can be applied to editing in Fortnite. You see, everyone wants to go as fast as they can right away. But what's the point in trying to edit as fast as possible if your technique is sloppy? To edit fast, you first need to edit slow. If you're missing a lot of edits when you practice, this is not good. You want to practice good habits and perfect technique and aim to have a high level of accuracy and precision. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You have to be patient. You have to learn to walk before you can run, and you have to learn to edit slow before you can edit fast. Break each edit sequence down into manageable chunks and focus on doing each edit perfectly before going on to the next part. Make sure that your crosshair is positioned correctly, you're using small movements, you're relaxed, and that you have good posture. Once you can do each individual part of an edit perfectly, start to put it all together and do it slowly. But don't go faster until each edit is clean, correct, and comfortable. Do not sacrifice accuracy and skill for speed, because when you can edit slow, you can edit fast, but don't do it fast until you can do it slow. You have to develop the right technique, and the best way to do this is to go slow. Go painfully slow, slower than you find comfortable. You may find it useful to turn off sprint by default and practice your edits while walking. Because your character will be moving slowly, you'll get more time to make your edit. But don't speed up until you can do each edit correctly when you're playing slow. Now once you've mastered the ability to edit slow, then you're ready to speed things up a bit. And that brings us to tip number 7, which is to practice fast. You see, sometimes you want to go even faster than you think you can manage, because this is going to push your limits and force you to improve. Think about lifting weights, for example. If you want to build muscle, then you have to push your limits and lift heavier weights. And as you lift heavier weights and get stronger, you'll notice that the weights that you were lifting before now feel lighter and easier. The same thing applies here in regards to your editing speed. Sometimes you need to up the pace and stretch yourself a bit. If you've been training your edits while walking, now it's the time to sprint. You can use speed boost pads, which make your character move even faster and force you to increase the speed of your edits to keep up. Then, when you play at the normal pace, you'll notice that things actually feel slower and you'll have more time to make your edits because you took the time to stretch your limits and push yourself. On to tip number 8, and that's about synchronizing your hands. Now, most players think that fast editing comes from good mouse hand technique. The belief is that if your mouse hand can move fast, then you will be able to edit fast. And the reason for this belief is that we focus so much of our time and attention on the mouse hand since it's responsible for controlling our cursor and crosshair. So, a lot of players will use aim trainers like Kovacs in order to get better aim and mouse control, and this exclusively trains the mouse hand. But we neglect to train our keyboard hand. And if you want to be able to play and edit at higher speeds, then you need both of your hands to work together. Because your keyboard hand is typically used to start the edit, you need correct timing and synchronization between both of your hands to edit well and edit fast. So can your hands do things independently of one another, or do you have one hand that's weaker and lagging behind? If so, focus on strengthening your weak hand until it's up to speed with your other hand. You want both hands working together in harmony, as this is going to allow you to get better faster. Tip number 9 is to try edit speed training. For edit speed training, you want to take your current sensitivity and divide it by a number between 2 and 3. For example, if you currently use 9% in-game sensitivity, you want to use between 3% and 4.5% when you're doing edit speed training. And if you already use a low sensitivity, then you may want to divide your sensitivity by a smaller number so your sensitivity isn't too low. This kind of training is something that I use when training my aim, but the same can be applied to edit training, and this is particularly useful for low sensitivity players that want to work on speed, but high sensitivity players can benefit as well. The reason this is mostly useful for low sensitivity players is that low sensitivity players face a problem in that it can feel like you need to move your mouse a far distance in order to edit and build. This is true, and it's an advantage that high sensitivity players have. But when you do edit speed training, by dividing your sensitivity by between 2 and 3, you'll be using a much lower sensitivity than you normally would. So when you return to using your normal sensitivity, it's going to feel much higher and your mouse movements will be much faster as a result. There's also some evidence to suggest that using different sensitivities can improve your mouse movement skills. As for how to program edit speed training, I recommend doing it for about 10 minutes before your normal training as a warm-up. Now, in contrast to speed training, you can also try this edit precision training. Precision training is the exact opposite of speed training, and it's most useful for high sensitivity players that want to work on their precision. Of course, low sensitivity players can try this as well. For precision training, you want to take your current sensitivity and multiply it by a number between 2 and 3. For example, if you currently use 9% in-game sensitivity, then you want to use between 18% and 27% when you're doing precision training. And if you already use a high sensitivity, you may want to multiply your sensitivity by a smaller number so your sensitivity isn't too high. So you'll be training with a much higher sensitivity than you normally use, and this will make you work on the smaller, more fine motor skill muscles like your fingertips that can sometimes be neglected when training. The programming for edit precision training is the same as before. Do it for about 10 minutes before your normal training, but don't do speed training and precision training on the same day. You can try doing them on alternate days or alternating weeks, whatever works best for you. And the final tip I have for you is to analyze your editing. As you're training your edits, you want to pay attention and note any edits in particular that you're having problems with. For example, if you struggle to edit through a floor in a cone, then you can create an exercise specifically to target that edit. So be creative and come up with exercises and solutions that you can use to improve. The best way to see what you're doing is to record yourself, and I recommend using OBS because it's free, lightweight, and easy to use. When you watch your replays back, you'll be able to see the exact movements that you're making, and you'll see things that you wouldn't usually be able to notice when playing. You can take your recordings and slow them down to carefully analyze each of your edits and find out where your weaknesses are and where you can make optimizations to your technique. Recording yourself is an excellent way to track your progress and see the difference in your editing technique and speed over time, which you may find encouraging and motivating. So to conclude, there are a lot of things that you can do to speed up the rate of your editing progress, but you can't rush the process. You have to put in the time, be patient, and trust in the process. You see, there are always new things to learn and new skills to develop, and without exception, every player has to go through the same process. Your favorite Fortnite pro player and the fastest editor has to dedicate many hours to the art of editing in order to reach the highest level and speeds. So relax and focus on the steps that you must take to reach the speeds that you desire. Your goal should be to edit effortlessly at any and all speeds, and I hope this video has given you some useful tips and strategies that you can use to become a better editor in Fortnite. If you found this video helpful, feel free to leave a like and a comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications because it really helps me grow. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.